I'm sure you know what I'm going to say. Sorry about the loss, man. Tough way to go down, but hopefully you guys are able to bounce back. I'm just going to start off like this. I mean, Josh, we've been talking to each other so many times for this entire year, and I really do appreciate you giving me another chance, one final chance for this year. At the end of the season, of course, not the way you guys wanted it to go down against Fnatic. Just want to ask you first and foremost, what how are you feeling? And also, I mean, what do you think went wrong for the team, especially in that second map?
Um, Obviously, I feel devastated that we lost. We had high hopes for this tournament, and even that last match, even though with the first map, like they were in control, I always felt like we could always regain control and like bring it back. And then the second map, I felt like we were in the driver's seat, and it kind of just slipped away from us. What went wrong? I think these like past two games actually, Lev and Fnatic, they were able to be more proactive than us, and we kind of crumbled on it underneath the pressure. Um, yeah, like usually we have like the mental resilience, but it feels like we were just a little bit on the back step, making new plans and just making sure that like we are ahead of what they're doing, um, and just like being action oriented. So, like prior to the Fnatic game, I was telling the guys like even within the Fnatic game, guys, like we know we're doing one, we know what they're doing. Um, we're IDing it. We should just make the plan and just counter it and just keep making these plans and just get a step ahead of them. Um, Sometimes it was a little too late, and I wish we started the games like this, but it is what it is, and I think this is a valuable experience for us.
Kind of felt like the team lost its way going from end of group stage until playoffs. Don't you kind of agree? Because like you guys were
Yeah.
on the momentum, finishing first place in your group, and then moving on to playoffs with plenty of expectations. Now, I would say, from people looking at you guys as a contender towards this title. Obviously, that didn't pan out, but it really did feel like the team just kind of went into a different direction from group stage to playoffs, right?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, like we came from low expectations, right? And that's such a looking back, and obviously when I was experiencing it, like it's such a superpower just to go in and just go in with low expectations, just work on yourself, and let this result surprise you. And then when the narrative swapped and people start to recognize us a lot more, um, these high expectations may be put on us, and maybe internally we had high expectations, maybe from the players, but um, that's another beast that the team has to overcome for sure. I would say a lot of our identity and like the team play that we were known for kind of fell off. Obviously, that sucks to see in such a high pressure match, an elimination game. But these guys are young, and we're just our first year in the league, and I think we just made such a splash in our first year. So come next year, we're gonna be even more prepared, even more resilient, more proactive, and just being able to handle the pressure, be able to play beautiful Valorant, so to speak. So I look forward to next year.
I understand that I asked you this question very fresh off of the loss, but now that you kind of are beginning to just kind of look back on how this series or how this tournament was, what do you feel the team could have done differently? Within that same time frame from like end of group stage to playoffs. Because I mean, group stage, there's not else better that you guys could have done to just kind of finish off in first seed of your group. So that said, a
Yeah.
thing that the team could have done differently within that time frame.
Um, I think like I won't like say all the lessons that we learned. I think being in a tournament like this, even like our experience in Shanghai now, Seoul's champions, um, it's definitely a different challenge. And even within the tournament, like the opening stages, like it's really easy to lock in and just because it's a new area. But then once you get comfortable, that's another thing. And I don't fully know exactly what came into it. I'm gonna have to reflect and write down like post mortem tournament brief debrief, right?
Mhm.
I still gotta like go through that, but I'm sure there's all these like variables and factors that definitely affected us in subtle ways that caused this. But at the end of the day, we just got to be better. We just got to be more intentional with like how we approach these games and make sure like we start. really well and end really well. Make sure we just hold that poise throughout the tournament. Um, like I said, they're a young group of guys, and we're our first year in our league. We'll get better.
Kind of want to fast forward over into map 2. I asked this question to Valyn in the start of the press conference. I'm going to ask the same to you, just from your point of view. Just um, the 4v2 situation where G2 was facing the Cosmic Divide, and you had, I believe, Boaster and Chronicle on the other side. And then, I mean, the teams kind of went south, and that led to Fnatic winning. From your point of view, what was your reaction? What was your thought process when G2 was pulling off that kind of play at the very end of the map?
And obviously, that was like horrifying to watch when I like watched the decision making, and it makes sense that in that high pressure scenario that we would choose to make a more overly conservative play. Even though they did recognize there's cosmic divide, that we are likely to get blocked off, but like we had two mollies, so like we thought that I mean at least the team thought that we can just win off of that. But I always believe in making sure, attacks are two front. And I think Nate was attempting to wrap to his use the Viper wall himself to wrap left, but then he got caught. I wish that was a little bit more supported. And that's honestly the theme, I think, about our losses. Like a lot of our plays became unsupported, and all the stuff that like made us work didn't happen. And you know, like that's despite the reminders and like what we did in practice. I feel like it's one of those things where the pressure kind of gets to you guys, so it gets to the guys. Um, but there's steps to this. You know, we got the champs playoffs next year. We'll go a little further, and maybe it's a win, maybe it's not. And I always believe in the long term goals for the players. They're really young, like I said. They got a lot of years of experience of playing ahead of them. So
Yeah, for sure. I mean, despite this loss, it's definitely a stepping stone for further success for this team, including yourself as the coach. I mean, obviously, talking to you so many times, so I kind of already have an understanding, a deeper understanding to how this team's kind of been progressing for this entire year. As you now look ahead to 2025, how do you kind of now look back on your year, just your work as a coach, and just you setting the foundation for the team, then being able to perform well, both domestic and international wise. Yeah, how do you kind of look back on your contribution? And in addition to that, kind of same question, also another one in the press conference. Most important thing for you that you kind of look at and say, okay, this is where I was like, this is my highlight.
I'll just go backwards there. I think one of the most important things is just how far making sure like despite a lot of pressures from the outside and internally, just staying the course and making sure like my vision kind of just pans out, like how I think the team can develop and progress. And we found ourselves being contenders, and I think that's awesome. um I feel like that validated something about like how I approach this coaching thing. And I've only been doing this for a couple of years now. It's not something that like I set out to do in the beginning of like esports. I wanted to be a player, and I realized like the experience taught me that I can pass on. So yeah, that's the thing I'm most proud of. Like how much they've grown. Obviously the players, and it's just fun to work with them. Honestly. But looking back on the year, it can be somewhat of a failure, I think. Like, although like we got second in regionals and third in Shanghai now, like eighth place. Like, I wish we won.
Mm,
We couldn't win a trophy, so that's just gonna nag me all off season. And trust me, that motivates me so much more. You won't get rid of me, So
mm.
I can't wait for next year. Like I said.
Now, yeah, despite coming in with a string of second place finishes, I mean it's a great showing for this G2 squad, and just being always within the thick of it. Sure, you guys didn't win, but you guys were able to just disprove a lot of the doubters coming into this year, and even during this year, and even especially a little bit at the end of the year at that. And so, Josh, it's been a pleasure just talking to you so many times during this entire year. Got no more questions to ask. I'm gonna give you the floor for final words. Do you have anything to share to anyone in the world?
Of course. Thank you for all the support, the G2 family, the my organization, my manager, my coaching staff, all the players for just being there and believing in the process. Of course, the fans. I mean, through thick and thin, and lastly, my family. They showed up. Apparently, my mom did an interview. That's kind of cool. I'm gonna watch that back. Um, but yeah, thanks for all the support, and yeah, like I said, thank you.
Job well done, JoshRT, man. Thank you so much, and best of luck in the off season and in the future.
Thank you, Pedro.
Thank you so much.